Thank you everyone for joining today. Like she said, I'm Kelly Dunn. So if you've ever called about WaterSmart before, you may have spoken with me. But I want to jump into this presentation today. And also as a heads up, I know people have been joining throughout the morning. So we are just now getting started. You haven't missed anything. If you're here on a lunch break or you can't stay for the whole hour, don't worry. We have a recording of this that we're making, and we will send that to you hopefully early next week. So whatever email that you have on file, that's who we will send it to. And it will also be posted to Scottsdale, Arizona's YouTube channel. We have other workshops on there too. So if there's other items you want to get more into depth on that we don't get to fully dive into today, we have a ton of information on our website and on our YouTube channel. But for today, we're going to start with WaterSmart. So if you are brand new to WaterSmart and you don't know what it is at all, if you're not registered yet, it's a portal that we provide for our Scottsdale water customers. So this workshop today is going to be helpful if you plan to move to Scottsdale or if you already have Scottsdale water. What it can do is once you're logged in, you can see your water usage. There's fun graphs and charts that show you kind of comparison year by year. We have online leak assistance tool that's going to walk you through the steps to check your home indoor and outdoor for anything that might be leaking. There's a number of water saving tips that they provide customized to your home. You can even download an Excel file that shows your water usage. And then what I find to be the most important is signing up or modifying your notifications for either leak alerts or high water use alerts and things like that. And they're going to be different based on what type of water meter you have. So kind of how it works is Scottsdale has begun installing advanced metering infrastructure. So what that means is here on the right is our surface area. And anything within this green area, so essentially if you're south of the CAP Canal, south of the Scottsdale Airport, you already have these AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, meters at your home. So what that means is our staff are going around, they're installing these meters. They have a little antenna essentially inside. So if you have one of these, you'll see there's a little gray box in there. What that does is it talks to collectors and repeaters, which geographically we need to place high because that's going to be the place of least resistance for data interruption when you're using radio frequencies like this. When that information is obtained, it's then sent to our utility billing department. And we kind of organize that data because it comes to us in a bunch of decimals and gibberish that's not going to make sense. We make it pretty and send that right back to your WaterSmart portal. So when you log in, you have nothing to figure out other than, hey, I use this much water at this time. So the main difference that we're going to see with someone who has an AMI smart meter down here versus someone up here who does not yet have that technology is that the AMI meters are going to allow you to see hourly and daily water use, while our regular non-AMI meters are just going to show you your monthly usage, but there still are some alerts that you can turn on. So if you live up here, I still recommend staying on this call. A lot of it will go over the hourly usage, but it's good to know because our plan in the next 5 years, now we don't have exact timelines for neighborhoods. I'm sorry, I can't provide you with that. But in the next 5 years, the plan is to roll out all those AMI meters through our whole service area. And if you live in some more of the mountainous neighborhoods or even some of our neighborhoods here on the east side of town, you might say, I don't have street lights. And so that's another point that we're working on because without having those high geographic points to put collectors and repeaters, it's difficult to get the data over without some form of interruption. So this is a process. We're the second city in the Phoenix area, aside from Tempe, to provide this to our customers. And so it is a free service offered by us, but if you're looking for something with a bit more functionality, we do offer Smart Home Water Monitor rebate. So if you're not familiar with this, essentially what it means is if you go to our website, scottsdaleaz.gov, and just use the search bar to type in rebates, you can pull up any of our available rebates, including this one, just to preface that. If you purchase one of these 6 qualified devices, these are real-time water monitoring devices. So that means if you want to know, oh my gosh, did I leave the hose on? You can go look at what's going on at 6, 7, 8 a.m. today. With our free service offered by the city of Scottsdale, we're in near real time. So we can tell you what happened about 24 hours ago, but there is going to be a gap. So that's kind of the main difference between our service and what some of these devices can offer you. So if you live in the north or if you kind of have patchy data because you're in one of those neighborhoods that we're having trouble getting collectors and repeaters in good places, you might want to take advantage of this. Essentially, to be pre-qualified, you obviously need to get Scottsdale water service from us, and then you can't have used this rebate before at your property. So kind of look at that application on our website if you're interested. It's a $100 rebate credit and it's applied to your water bill. And that's after you purchase, install it, and send us the photos and receipts and all of that good stuff that is listed in the application itself. So I just kind of want to throw that out there because I know this functionality may not be exactly what you want, but I'm going to show you how to get the best out of what we can offer. So first things first, to get into the WaterSmart portal, you first have to log into scottsdaleaz.gov/utilities. If you already pay your bill online, you have this account. If you've never done this before, you pay in person, you've never created the account, or maybe you did once and set auto pay and forgot, that's okay. Our utility billing department, this number right here, or even just emailing them to get in contact with them, they're the ones that will be able to help you access the e-services account. So that's what I'm going to call this scottsdaleaz.gov, is just e-services. So if you need any assistance, us in water conservation, we can't get you in. So to save you some time, just write down this utility billing information if you have any trouble. I also sent in the email file yesterday a link to how to create an account, how to log into WaterSmart. It's like a 6 or 7 page PDF. Super helpful. So if you're having any trouble, check that out. And then also a flow chart to kind of see, am I logged in? Do I need an account? So once you're logged in for the sake of this workshop, we're going to assume that you have an account. So when you're on eServices portal, you just hit sign in. So you have to do this in order to get to the WaterSmart portal. Once you hit sign in and you type in your credentials, there's going to be an accounts tab and you want to hit that drop down. If your water account is already added, you can select it. If you have an eServices account, you might still need to add your water account to it if you've never used this online portal before. So that's simply the add account button. You'll need your address, your account number, and things like that. Again, any trouble before you get into the WaterSmart portal, you do need to reach out to utility billing to help you with that. But once you select your water account, you'll be able to see your bill history, download bills, account numbers, all that good stuff. You can even pay from here. So if you're not familiar with this portal, there is some great user features there as far as just downloading bills and things like that. But for today, we're going to click on this WaterSmart button. That's how you access WaterSmart every time. So log in, select your water account, and then click this blue button. So once you're on the main login screen, it's going to basically default to this home page. It's going to summarize your recent daily water usage. It's showing me a comparison between this billing period in 2023 and then today. You can get to our social media, notifications. Essentially, all of these tools here are just quick links to how you would get to them from these tabs that we're going to go over today. So feel free to browse this homepage as needed on your own time. We're going to jump over to the next tab, which is billing. And just to point out, we do not have any of your billing information loaded into WaterSmart, and that's just to protect your data. So if you were to click on this, it's going to redirect you right back to eServices. So if you want to pay a bill, see how much your bill is, etc. If you click that billing button, that's how you get redirected back to that eServices page. So it's not really a functionality of WaterSmart, but the feature is still there. And I'm going to skip the track tab for now, because that's the bulk of what today we'll be covering, and just kind of hop over to this Take Action tab. So you'll see here, you'll have some recommended water saving tips. It's going to give you gallons saved per day and kind of analyze that into a dollar amount as well. All of these tips are going to be based on this little button here, household profile. So your homework for today, and it's the only thing I'm assigning, is to click on this household profile button if you have not done so already. It's essentially going to be asking you things like, how many people live in your house? How many or how much of your landscape is grass that you irrigate? Do you have a pool? Things like that. And there will be information in there already. It just may not be correct. It's it's pulled from the county assessor's website. And so if that wasn't up to date, or you've recently done like a landscape conversion or added a pool or removed a pool, anything like that, there's a good chance it's incorrect. And typically the number of occupants in the house is a guess as well. So you go in there, you fix that. Not only will it update your recommendations for you, but it's also going to provide you a better comparison to people of similar households, which is a feature in the track tab that we can kind of touch on later. But having that updated really is just the best practice to get the most accurate results and the best use of your WaterSmart portal. So we are going to head to the track tab, but I first wanted to check in for a quick question break, and in case there's anything going on where you're having any trouble hearing me or anything before we really dive in to everything. So I'll just take a quick pause and let Scout take over.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. So it looks like we don't have any new questions in the chat. If anyone wants to raise their hand to ask a question, again, at the top of your window, you'll just click, there's a little hand icon underneath it. It says raise. Feel free to raise your hand. I can unmute you if you would like to speak your question out loud versus add it into the chat. I'll give it a few seconds here. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any questions yet. Again, as we continue into the second part of our presentation here, feel free to add your questions into the chat.
Perfect. All right, just like to check in because, we want to incorporate time for any technical difficulties. And luckily, we haven't had any of those today. So just as a heads up, this will likely end a little bit before 12:15. So if you can stick around for the whole thing, that's great. But we definitely wanted to make sure we had time if there was any issues or long questions. So, okay. So now that I've clicked on the track tab, this is going to show two separate views. If you're not sure if you are in an AMI or a non-AMI area, one of the quickest ways to find out is simply to click on the track tab. If you see this line graph on the left, that means it's only showing your billed monthly usage. Therefore, you are a non-AMI account at this time. If you do see this bar graph here, this is showing a 2-week view of daily water use. And so that's basically accumulating all 24 hours of use into each of these bars. So this here on the right shows I have hourly water use. As I mentioned, the main difference between AMI and non-AMI is daily and hourly usage is available on these types of graphs here. But monthly usage is for our non-AMI users. Like I said, stick around even if you don't have AMI. It's really good to learn this. And once your email is registered in WaterSmart, and that is done by literally just clicking that blue button that I showed you earlier, once those meters are rolled out into your area, you'll automatically be enrolled in some of our notifications so that you can be up to date with anything that might be going on that you weren't aware of. So, and then it's just good to kind of learn how to read these charts and be proactive about it. But the next couple slides are going to show you what this hourly water use looks like and a few examples of how you can see if something might be going on that's fishy, like a leak. All right. So this is the track tab for an AMI account. It's going to default to this 2-week view here. Once you open that, the dates here at the bottom of the graph will show each day, and then the gallons of water used are going to run along the left side here. The legend at the top shows the 3 categories of water use. Blue is considered normal use, which indicates the algorithm did not pick up on any potential leaks. Orange indicates that there is or was a potential leak, which I might also refer to as continuous use. And then the gray indicates that there was data interruption for that time period. This happens occasionally. It's not a huge deal. It does not affect your bill usage or anything. It's essentially saying the data from that 1 hour wasn't transmitted properly, but your start and end meter readings are always going to be the same. And that's what you're billed off of. So like I mentioned, your WaterSmart data is in near real time, but it is not real time. It's 24 hours behind. And you can find that last updated time on the top right of the graph here. So like I said, this is a shot of a 2-week daily view. But if you want to see your hourly water use, the caveat is that you must be logged into a desktop or a tablet. Mobile devices, they just can't show the hourly water use at this time. So if you're on a computer, a desktop, or a laptop, if you click on a specific day, or you hit this day button up here, it's going to change that view. So now what I'm seeing is each hour of the day, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. there on the bottom, and then the gallons on the right. If I want to know what happens on a specific hour, I hover over 3 o'clock with my mouse and it says 5 gallons were used. So keep in mind that this was last updated. So let's pretend we're back in 2021 and it's November 5th. This is what I would be able to see from the day before. I'm going to be missing that 6, 7, 8 p.m. data. Like I said, near real time, not fully real time, but it's pretty close. It's within 24 hours, and it's enough to help you track things and avoid getting a bill 30 days later, you know. So here's an example of what you would want to see. So this is what normal daily water use looks like. If you hover over any of those times from 6, 7, or 8 a.m., you see 0 gallons being used. So what that indicates is that during that time, there is no continuous use detected. There's no possible way that you have an ongoing leak, a traditional leak that's using water every hour of the day. But to show you what that would look like if you had continuous use, remember from that 2-week view, there was that orange that populates from October 24th through the 28th, right there. And it's good to note some parameters before we really dive into what makes it orange. What we have it set to is that in order for the algorithm to consider something a leak, you must be using at least 8 gallons an hour for a 3-day period. And the reason for that is it's intended to kind of rule out any automatic appliances like a pool autofill that's adding water hourly. If you're deep watering a tree, you leave it on overnight. Maybe you're filling your pool and it's taking a day or two. We can talk more about that later in this presentation as well. But for now, let's just further investigate by clicking on October 24th. And then we're going to look at this daily view here and see what happened the day this leak started. Because if you look early in the morning, there's 3 periods of time where no water is being used. So again, normal water use. We have a little bit going on, but there's periods of 0. The afternoon is when that algorithm then picks up on continuous usage and marks that in orange for us right around noon. So if you hover over any time frame during the leak, that's also going to show you a further breakdown of the total use and what it considers to be a leak. So the algorithm actually takes into account that there may be some normal daily water use going on top of the leak, which is why those bars are divided into blue and orange, or what it considers normal use and possible leak. So as you can see, the use fluctuates throughout the day, but it's never less than 11 gallons an hour that you see right there at noon. So that is why the algorithm then thinks, okay, the leak must be 11 gallons per hour, because they never use less than that. There's never 0, there's never 5. It's always 11 or more. If you want to get to the next day really easily, these little fun fact, these little gray arrows will just swap you over to October 25th. So on this day, I can tell there's continuous use 2 ways. First off, the algorithm has so kindly flagged this in orange for me. But secondly, when I visually inspect this, I notice that every single hour of the day I'm using at least 11 gallons, and there's no periods of 0. So that means I have continuous water use. But continuous water use may not essentially mean there's a leak. So that's why you kind of have to put on your thinking cap and say, what is going on? What is my schedule? Is this normal? You know, it's not a huge amount of water. Is this going into my pool? So I'm kind of, in this example, let's say I water at 3 and 5 a.m. with my sprinklers. That explains these 2 spikes. So I'm not super worried about those. But otherwise, if I'm at work from 8 to 4 or so, and no one else is home, I might want to investigate what's going on. Just in general, this area is suspicious because nobody's home. I don't have a pool. My irrigation system goes off at these 2 times. Why is water being used? So in this case, it's flagged as a leak, so it makes it easier to identify. But as I mentioned before, if there is a leak, but it hasn't been going on for 72 hours, or potentially it's less than those 8 gallons, WaterSmart's not going to flag it in orange for you. So if you want to be able to manually inspect your data and know what is going on, here's a good example. This is what continuous use looks like without being flagged. There's water every hour. There's no periods of zero use. But it doesn't always need to be flagged in orange if you're logging in every day for it to catch your attention because you know what you're looking for. So again, you look at this and say, this makes sense. This is my pool. This is not a leak. But if you don't have a pool, what is it? Is it reverse osmosis system? Do I have a drippy valve or something? And right after it runs, it's highest, and then it kind of slows down. And when it runs again, it gets higher. You kind of have to do some investigating if you're not sure where it's coming from. But another thing to note is that there are communication preferences in WaterSmart that you can set up if you're kind of concerned. These leak alerts take 3 days. I might not get them if they're less than 8 gallons of water. So I wanted to kind of show you first off how to get there. So the settings tab on the far right will then have a communication preferences option. And once you go into there, AMI or no AMI, you're going to have some features. Now they're going to look different, but everyone has some alert features. So went ahead, sorry. Let me get my laser pointer out. So this is an example of an AMI account. If you don't have AMI, you won't have leak alerts available to you. And you won't have unplanned use notifications available to you, but you will have bill forecast. So these are the types that you can turn on. The most useful one is leak alerts. And some people will get a leak alert and they say, I keep getting these emails. I know what it is. Either they are running misters for chickens or something in the summer and they're like, I know, or they know, like, my pool does this. We've checked it. There's no cracks. Everything's working. It's just how our autofill slowly fills a pool. It puts 10 gallons in every hour. And I don't want these alerts, but I also don't want to uncheck this box and not get them, because what if I have a 100-gallon an hour leak and then I never get this email? And then at the end of the month, I get a big bill and I had this feature available to me. So keep that checked on. You're automatically enrolled in these once you hit that blue WaterSmart button. If you uncheck this, or if you want to check email or text or voice message, you can do all 3 or any version of all 3 of those. But if you uncheck this leak alert box, you won't get them. What I recommend is, if you're getting annoyed that it's not a leak, you know what it is, but you want to increase it to a different amount, higher than 8 gallons per hour, you click this how much button, and then you'll type in that value there. So if your pool puts 9 gallons in every hour, you don't want to hear about it, change that to 10 and then just hit that button there. So you can increase the amount based on your household so that you don't have to shut off those leak alerts. Another alert that you may consider if you have the AMI functionality is the unplanned use alerts. These are my favorite. Essentially what they're going to do is, let me zoom in for you. If you check this box, it's going to send you a text every morning if you exceed the threshold that you put here. Some people leave it at 0 and they just get a text every morning that says, hey, you used 80 gallons yesterday. And that way they kind of have a baseline of, okay, 80 on days that I don't irrigate, 500 on days that I irrigate. But you can set it to never turn off and just get those texts every single day. You could set it for when you're just on vacation to get those texts. And that way, if one morning you're used to getting the 80 gallon per hour text and one morning it says you used 3,000 gallons yesterday, that's going to ring some bells and say, hey, I should probably either hop onto WaterSmart and see what's going on, or if you're not home, call a neighbor and say, do you notice, like, are my sprinklers running? What's going on? Because that's just kind of your key to say something's not right. I need to go check it out. That's what these alerts are all meant to do. So this feature here is very cool. If you're not sure what to put for your daily threshold, 0 is a nice one just to kind of get a feel for what it does. You'll get a text every morning that you use at least 1 gallon. And then I'll show you another feature here in some of the other track tab tables. That is a good daily threshold if you're not sure where to start. But first, the bill forecast notifications. These are going to allow you to look at your seasonal use for this current billing period. And if you're forecasted to be anywhere from 1 to 5 times higher than that same period last year, it's going to email or text you. So it could happen mid-month. It could happen right away if you had like a huge spike. This is more of a long-term monitoring and not so much for like a leak necessarily, but potentially if you had a leak in an automated system, like an irrigation system, and that starts running at 3 a.m. and you're gushing thousands of gallons of water, but it's not necessarily a continuous usage leak, so you're not going to get leak alerts, but you're having much higher water use. That's what those bill forecast notifications are good for, is these kind of burst leaks that don't happen all day long. So our algorithm would say, well, there's not 8 gallons being used every hour. So that's what that one is good for. A lot of people said it should 2 times higher. And again, if you get that, it might just be, hey, we overseeded this winter and we didn't last winter. So you kind of go in and investigate and see, is it a leak or is it just my watering has changed? So back to the track tab. These graphs are available to everyone. So in addition to that hourly water use chart, we have the seasonal use. That's going to be the first graph that you see. That's going to be your monthly consumption versus precipitation and average temperatures. So for AMI customers, you can also see your daily consumption compared to these weather factors if you just click this daily button. Otherwise, you'll just see monthly if you don't have AMI. And then if you hover over the months on this chart, what it's going to do is it's going to give you your average daily use for that month. So say in December, your average daily use is 70 gallons a day. That could potentially be a good threshold that you put in here. But you're going to want to change that every month because 70 gallons probably wouldn't suffice in June. So that's just an idea. But I suggest if you don't know or if you don't want to put 0. So if you exceed that daily average of 70, you would get a text just saying, hey, you used 80 gallons today. Is this suspicious? I don't know. So, so the second chart is going to be comparing your use for the last 24 months. It's simple as it sounds. It's going to show you last November and this November for the full year. So you'll have 2 years of water use right here. Again, hover over any of that. It's going to tell you the exact amount of gallons per day that you were using. And then if you have enough data, it's going to say, hey, you're using a little bit less water during the most recent 12-month period. So you can go in here and set notifications from there if you wanted to for like a bill forecast type of thing. And then lastly is tracking your long-term use. So that's just going to show all your bill usage by year. And then in the most recent year, so for this example, 2024, it's going to make a projection to say, well, we think we actually are going to be a little bit higher than last year. Even though you were using 7% less, if you look at this chart, in 2023, we used a lot in the summer versus 2024, but now it's kind of flopped. So maybe, oh, I'm sorry, we used a lot in the winter, but now it's kind of flopped. We're using more this summer. That might just be it was hotter or something like that. But if you keep up this trend, you may be using more than you did last year. So that's kind of what those charts are showing you. And like I said, any of these little monthly comparisons or annual comparisons are available to both customers, AMI or non-AMI. So they're helpful to have. All right. So now that we've gone through the track tab, your communication preferences, we want to give you the resources to assist you if you have a leak or, like I said, a potential irrigation inefficiency, potential leak when that system's running. That's maybe caused your water use to go up and brought you to this portal to begin with. So just as a note, both AMI and non-AMI accounts can receive this type of message. It's going to be a little bit different if you don't have AMI because it's not going to say continuous use detected, but it's essentially going to be looking at your bills, your forecast for that, your comparison from your bill from the previous period of the same month. And that's essentially going to say, hey, you might have a leak because you're using a lot more water than you normally do this time of year. And you'll have the same button that says investigate possible leak. So when we say that WaterSmart provides leak finding resources, this is kind of what we're referring to is this investigate possible leak tool. Once you click on that, it's going to open this dialog box to help you start checking for a leak. And so if you've ever done that before, essentially what that is it's going to run you through toilets, fixtures, irrigation, other. And it's going to provide you so many steps for each of these that'll say, check this, check your toilets, run your irrigation system. And if you don't even know where to start, this tool is super helpful. If you find the leak, you can even say found leak, and then that reports that the leak was repaired. What I recommend, if you don't want to read a bunch of things and you just really want to know, do I have a leak? Is to read your water meter. May sound scary, but it's really not. The easiest thing you can do is go out to your front yard, pop off that meter lid, find the dial. Both AMI and non-AMI meters have some type of red dial. This picture is showing an AMI meter. There's also a big sweep hand version of this. And that's essentially saying, hey, if water is flowing through me, I'm mechanical, this wheel spins. If water is not flowing through me, that wheel cannot spin. That means no water is being used at that time. So it's important when you're doing this to make sure you're not running the laundry or the dishwasher or something that's using water, because that's going to skew your results. But if you have everything off and this dial is spinning and you're not using water intentionally, water's flowing. Now, is that a leak? I don't know. That's kind of up to interpretation. And I recommend doing an isolation test. So if you want resources on that, we have the smarthomewaterguide.org. We offer this in print. We can mail it to anyone if you live in the Scottsdale, city of Scottsdale. Other cities offer this too if you happen to not be in Scottsdale. The libraries have it. You can stop by our water resources office and pick one up too. They are free, super handy. I know some people like to have a physical copy while they're walking around doing things, but this web version has it as well. It's going to walk you through everything as far as reading your meter, getting a flow rate, as to doing the isolation test. So that's going to be turning off water to the house, turning off water to your pool, going back to the meter and saying, is the dial still spinning? Or did I figure out what line was leaking? And that's essentially going to give you advice for the next steps. Because if it's going into your pool, you're probably not going to call an irrigation specialist to come fix that. But if the leak is isolated to your irrigation line, you're not going to call the pool specialist to fix that. So you can figure out what line it's in, and that's going to help you determine the next steps. And then also, just this year, a few months ago, we made a YouTube video, how to read your water meter. I sent it in the email yesterday, but if you weren't part of that email, just Google how to read your water meter, or type into YouTube, how to read your water meter, Scottsdale, Arizona, and that will pull up. And again, the Scottsdale, Arizona's YouTube page has a ton of water resource videos that we have made in the past as well, including some that go over a full workshop of leak detection, which I unfortunately don't have time to dive into as long today, but important to know how to read your water meter. And then, for example, if you're doing these steps and you just aren't getting it, maybe this is spinning and you have no idea what to do next, the book doesn't make sense, you can call utility billing at this number, ask them for a meter reread, and that because you think you have a leak. They will check your meter and confirm, yes, there is continuous use going on, and then a tech will call you back and they're going to walk you through how to do an isolation test. So that's one option if your meter is spinning. If this red dial is not spinning, but you're having high water use and you're seeing big spikes, but it's just not continuous, you might benefit from an outdoor water efficiency check, which is a free service we do offer Scottsdale residents. One of our irrigation specialists will walk your property with you and they will run all your irrigation zones. They'll get a flow rate. And so if something is fishy, like why is this one flowing so much larger than anticipated for the type of, if it's a pop-up or if it's a high efficiency nozzle, there's going to be different anticipated flow rates for those versus a drip system. You might have a supply line leak underground, and the chances are you'll never see that surface unless it's close enough to the soil top. So these outdoor water efficiency checks you can schedule, and that's actually going to be with us. So don't call utility billing, call 312-5650 and ask them for an outdoor water efficiency check. That's just a free service. It's awesome. We really recommend it. We love to see the participation, and they'll also go over things with you like how to read your water meter. Just as simple as that. They'll pop off that lid and make sure that when you start your audit, your efficiency check, that there is no continuous use. And then you can ask questions along the way. They'll help you with any type of like plant suggestions, pruning tips, things like that. It's all for your outdoor water use and saving water. You do need to be on site, and it's very interactive. So please take advantage of that, especially if you think you might have an inefficiency with one of your irrigation systems. But even if not, it's free and we love to do them. So that's kind of it. Like I said, I was hoping we would wrap up a little early so that no one has to miss out on anything, but I did want to check one more time on questions. And then also, if you have a long question or a very specific question that you don't want to ask in this workshop, email us or call us, and then we can set up, a phone call or something to go over your water use and any questions that you may have. And then again, if you have any trouble with logging into e-services or creating your utility account, utility billing will help you with those. Their number's down here.